Hey guys!
Hey, I'm Pimmy.
I'm Yasmin.
I'm going to be studying land economy at Queen's at Cambridge.
I'm going to be studying human sciences at Oxford. So in this video, Pimmy, my best friend, will be reading out her personal statement, and I'm going to be just writing some notes and questions and comments on her personal statement, and then we'll just talk about it. So what did you apply for?
So I applied for law at LSE, Durham and Warwick, and then for Cambridge I applied for land economy, which is a course that blends law and economics. So this is more to just like, instead of just reading a personal statement, really unpacking the thought process that go behind it to hopefully help people who are writing their personal statements now and give them a few ideas.
Yep. So I applied for human sciences, as I mentioned before. I won't say too much about it now, but it's a cool course where you learn all about humans, and you do and you do a bit of bio, a bit of anthropology, a bit of sociology, and I'll be doing the same thing on my channel, so if you're interested, you can check that out.
I'm sure everyone will experience this when reading back on old essays, but I cringe whenever I read this. But I'm doing this to help people. Okay. As I see it, the law is not isolated from social, political, and economic considerations, but instead has been shaped by these factors and their vicissitudes over the course of history. I am intrigued by its foundational qualities in all aspects of society, from human rights to the protection of intellectual property. Its interdisciplinary nature and instrumental role in the betterment of a nation is what drives me most in its study. Seeing my first political demonstration at 5 years old, I grew up amid detrimental socio-economic effects corruption has wreaked in Thailand. Interested in the legal implications, I sought an internship in the anti-corruption department of Tilaki and Gibbons. My work deepened an understanding of the legislative reforms strengthening Thai anti-corruption practice. In particular, the 2015 amendments to the Organic Act on Counter-Corruption, stressing corporate criminal liability and extraterritorial coverage of bribery offences, have broadened the previously narrow scope for liability under the Thai Penal Code. This has played a crucial part in the heightened political commitment to move Thailand closer to its obligations under the UN Convention Against Corruption. Overall, I was inspired to witness firsthand the vital role of the law in the operation of a country, specifically in improving social and ethical conduct. Fascinated by international relations, the internship prompted my independent research into the jurisdictional reach of the U.S. Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, tackling cross-border corruption. This is increasingly relevant in Thailand, a priority country for foreign direct investment. I also explored the UK Bribery Act 2010 and reforms to replace unclear common law structures that made prior enforcement and prosecutions much more difficult. As a regular attendee of the Foreign Correspondence Club of Thailand, I am frequently engaged in debate on local and international affairs. Most profound to me was a talk encompassing the criminal justice system of Thailand, with major problems surrounding enormous numbers of minor drug offenders serving time in prison. The current system of, in my opinion, unjust incrimination wreaks havoc on the lives of hundreds of thousands, creating a great need for legal and social reform to improve welfare. Most importantly, the talks allowed engagement with the diverse opinions of politicians and ministers, teaching me to not simply accept what I'm being told, but to listen critically and distinguish between personal bias and valid, reliable facts. Through the scientific nature of my A-levels, I have developed analytical thinking patterns in spotting logical inconsistencies and fallacies. However, from reading letters to a law student, I appreciate that propositions of British jurisprudence often surpass methodical reasoning, and the key legal principles are what must be realized. Furthermore, economics emphasizes critical evaluation, teaching me to apply theory to unseen textual information, whilst considering the context to form well-argued conclusions. These skills have flourished in MUN through reading legislation and policies to use in debate and resolution writing. Essential to case law, I am eager to further these abilities throughout my degree. Demanding good judgment, collaboration, and humility, my role as head girl develops my passion for advocacy whilst fostering tactful and perceptive approaches to conflict. This extends to my TED Talk on animal agriculture, a mark of my enthusiasm to enact change. Both of these aspects have fueled my interest in the relation of law to public policy and social development. Moreover, years of balancing academic rigor with drama and sports has required diligence and hard work, qualities that will allow me to thrive in a legal education and career. I am overall enthralled by the theoretical aspects of law and am eager to gain the vocational skills to apply this practically to promote justice.
Man. Okay, this was actually the first time that I've heard her personal statement in its entirety. Like, I hadn't read it before. So, man, it's good, guys. Like, I'm proud of her. Okay, so I would say my immediate reaction upon hearing this is I like how it's really interdisciplinary at the start.
Mm-hmm.
So you recognize, like, law doesn't exist by itself or on its own. I also really like her declarative tone because it shows that, like, you know, she is passionate about this. She isn't just saying this like, oh, it's cool. She's like, I love this, which I really loved. And I felt like you guys don't really know Pimmy that well, but this personal statement was really Pimmy. And I think you see this through the use of her declarative tone, because you can see the way she's thinking, and when she's talking about events, she doesn't just state what happened, but rather she includes her own reactions and her feelings towards that event, which really shows Pimmy as a person, that she's thinking about the situation around her, and it really like provides evidence for what she said at the end about wanting to enact justice, because it shows that she's thinking about the problems in her society. Additionally, we're both international applicants, so I thought that was really cool how she brought in Thailand and her own personal experiences. I mean, not everyone is into politics, but she's bringing in what her own history and her, what she's seen growing up here. And I also liked how you sprinkled in your work experience very subtly. It wasn't like I interned here, it was rather like I interned here and I learned this and this is why I want to do law or I want to do land economy. So I really enjoyed listening to that, and man, my friend is smart. I have a couple of questions for you.
Okay.
As I mentioned before, I had not read Pimmy's personal statement prior to today, but I did know that she found it very hard to write. So I want to ask you, how did you plan out your personal statement and get over all those like mental writer's blocks?
Right. Okay, so first of all, I had to really ask myself, why am I applying for law, and how am I also going to relate this application to land economy? And what helped me the most was to have a theme for my personal statement. So you might have noticed that my theme was I like interdisciplinary learning and how law doesn't exist in isolation, and how it is an outlet to study all these other different subjects. Number two is I wanted to show everything that I've done in school that relates to my course, and I wanted to link everything to law, which I think was like the personal statement. Like, everything I said linked to my course.
Yeah, I really saw that. Like when she mentioned her head girl thing, it wasn't to be like, I'm head girl. It was like head girl, advocacy, law.
So biggest thing is, and also like I needed to have a genuine voice. So I really, once it came to refining what I was going to add into my personal statement, I chose what was the most relevant to my course and what I genuinely cared about the most, because I feel like that genuine voice really does come through, and it's really easy to tell when someone is being fake.
Yeah. And that's especially important for the interview, because they're basically going to ask you about your personal statement, or if they don't ask you about it, they know what you're like as a person. Kind of.
So they're going to go off what you've written, and you should be able to talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Okay, that was a very good answer. So as we mentioned before, Pimmy applied for law at all her other universities, but applied for land economy at Cambridge. So I want to ask you, how did you write a personal statement for two different courses?
Okay, so linking back to the reason why I was applying for law is it's interdisciplinary, and that's very much what land economy is. We study law, but there's economics, there's finance, real estate, public policy, and like environmentalism, which I also referenced in my personal statement. So I feel like it was crafted very well towards law because that was the focus of it, but because I was referencing other subjects, that helped relate it to land economy and sort of what I would be doing, and giving them a hint of like what my academic interest would be when I'm at the university, what I'm going to further study. Yeah, and
I think it was cool, like, for like the universities that you applied for law at, even though they don't know you're applying for land economy, the fact that you were talking about other bits, with, like, for example, like corruption or the environment, even though it's not directly law, it shows that you understand what the law covers. Yeah. And how the law can be used to advocate change. Yeah.
Another thing is I didn't do any specific reading, so I think a lot of people talk about the books they've read. But
that was actually my next question.
Okay.
Yeah, what did you read?
Okay, so the only thing I really read was Letters to a Law Student, but I only used that to help me with one tiny part of my personal statement. Like, I didn't write about the book, I just wrote like, oh, I saw this lesson and how it related to the A-level subjects that I study in school. So it's a nice way to show that, hey, I'm not all about super curricular activities, but I still read stuff, and then it's just a nice way to slip in a book without having to read a whole book and like talk about it academically.
And I think something really neat about yours was that you only referred to one book, and I think a common misconception is people think that they need to refer to only books, but rather you referred to your real life experiences. So she talked about being head girl, and she talked about giving a TED talk, she talked about attending like panel discussions, and I think that showing real life action is sometimes like the same, or if not like better than just reading a book passively.
Yeah, and I think it makes your application unique. I actually was quite insecure about sending it out because I hadn't read a book and I hadn't done like essay competitions and things like that. But I mean, it just goes to show that as long as you put something in that you're genuinely interested in, it can go a long way.
Yeah, okay. Do you have any last words before we end this video?
I would just say go check out Yasmin's video for her personal statement, and this is just to give you an actual example that you can sort of unpick yourself.
Okay, cool. Thanks for watching. I hope this was useful.
Bye.
Bye.